a PhD student at the University of Colorado, Denver. And what I'm presenting to you comes from a couple different areas. Before I was an instructional designer, I was an online student success coordinator. And what that did entail was taking any student complaint. So I was the person who got any online student complaint. And I got to talk to the student. I got to help them. I got to mediate with the faculty member. I got to help with interventions. So I'm coming from that. I'm now an instructional designer. So spending a lot of time doing instructional design. And then also I'm doing my PhD at the University of Colorado, Denver. And it's, some people would say at the nexus. But what it is I'm taking all the critical studies in education courses, and I'm taking all, and I'm also taking
enough junk in the back of the truck that you'll want to maybe even take your car or the
and true. I am taking all the junk from one of the programs and also the second program. And the second program is learning design and technology. So that's what I'm doing my PhD on. And this really, and this research and this practice is coming out of my program. So yeah, it was fun, wasn't it? And thank you for everybody for telling me where exactly you are coming from. Okay, so to get started, we're going to talk about microaggressions, and we're going to talk about online microaggressions. Now, yes, what you're seeing now is absolutely how my advisor had me put out the research problem. That it's about online incivility, and it is a problem of practice. And this research and me doing the lit review and everything happened even prior to the pandemic. So it's really looking at higher education, community college, online courses, and things that are happening in our discussion forums. And what's happening in our discussion forums and are microaggression, online disinhibition effect, implicit bias, and a chilly climate. Oh, okay. I am sorry. Thank you for letting me know that. Are you seeing it now? And you can just type Y in chat. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is how my advisor had me put out the problem of practice and what the problem of practice was. And it was higher education. I was looking at specifically at community college because that's where I live, and online courses. And I will tell you, prior to the pandemic, people would say, oh, my online courses are great. Nothing bad ever happens in discussions. And that's how I knew someone hadn't taught online for that much. I knew, I knew absolutely that those people who were answering like that hadn't taught online for very long. Okay, now at this point in time with remote learning, everyone knows this now. So I'm going to go over some definitions and some key concepts, because this is really what I found when it came to the literature review and also what I was finding in practice. Now, since we've pivoted to remote learning and also a greater awareness of diversity, equity, and inclusion at our organizations and institutions, have a lot of people who are trying to bring what works wonderfully in face-to-face classes, and when it comes to microaggressions and also other problems when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion and social justice, and they're trying to bring it from face-to-face and just put it online like it's an exact fit.
Thank you, Daniel.
And it's not an exact fit. So just want to say to my moderator real quick, if you can mute yourself, that would be really cool. Okay, cool. So when it comes to the, so when it comes to the difference between microaggressions face-to-face and microaggressions online, there's this other factor. So there's this other variable, and I just wanted to see if anybody else had heard of this term before, online disinhibition effect. And if you have, type in a Y, and if you haven't, type in an N. Okay, good. I'm glad to see it. I'm seeing some people have seen it. Yes, because this is something that we need to talk to we need to talk to our DEI people about, because there's just this, yes, missing a filter. I just had someone, Vicky, type to me missing filter. Yes, that's a really good way to think about it. Now, this was, first written about in 2004, and it was called the online disinhibition effect. And this online disinhibition effect has different factors to it. And some of these factors are this disassociative anonymity. And this is it in, if things are truly just text, a student can go in and a student can go ahead and think that, oh, nobody knows who I am. You don't see a face. It's not like I'm on Zoom, and can just get in there and act like there's no consequences because it's anonymous. There's the, you can't see me. There's also the thing about us doing things asynchronously, that a student can go in and make a post and immediately jump out. It's not like being face-to-face where you say something and the other person can immediately react to you. So that's the online disinhibition effect is a big factor when it comes to microaggressions in online learning. Some of the other things about the online disinhibition effect, it's all in my head, it's all a game. And then even this last one kind of has been hitting faculty members. There is a power dynamic in courses. And even though there's great instructors who do their best to get rid of this power dynamic, in the online disinhibition effect, this power dynamic can work two ways. It can be benign, and it means that your students feel comfortable and they think you're equals, and they go ahead and they're chattier, and they bring all these great ideas to the discussions or to the course and everything. But then there's this other part of it. And the other part of it is when it's toxic. And when it's toxic, this is when you have someone perhaps who is a blogger or someone who is very active in social media. And because of the online disinhibition effect, while you might be trying to teach something specifically, they might have a different opinion on it. And this minimizing authorities might get in the way of you trying to teach. So this online disinhibition effect, remember, it has a benign part that's really helpful. And in online learning, we talk about it a lot. And the way we talk about it is that students who would never raise their hand in class are chatty and discuss things in the discussion forums. And then on the other side of it, on the toxic side of it, is things like you get trolls and people who flame and do things like that. So what I really wanted to get across to everybody is the online disinhibition effect. That's the extra variable that happens when we're talking about microaggression online. Now, online incivility, it's mild, but it's a common form of mistreatment involving rude and discourteous behavior that violates the norms of respect. And there's been some online research done in this already. And let me go. It's the online incivility effect. It's micro stressors. Okay, it's micro stressors that can happen different places. It could happen, say, it could happen in our chat Zoom. It could happen with your students in online discussions. It could happen in, you know, what we're using for the conference in Discord. It could happen in Slack. Here's the example that I wanted to say. Have you ever gotten an email, and especially during this time of remote learning and remote work, and you've read that email and you've just had to stand up and walk away from the desk, or you just had to make a decision that you're going to answer that email later because you just can't handle it at the moment? That is the kind of micro stressors happen online that accumulate. And I'm not saying that can't happen face to face, but when we're online, we can read a lot of different things. A lot of different things into it. Okay, so in the research, they did find that mental, emotional, and social strategies were significantly lower in uncivil conditions compared to civil conditions. And there were some great experiments done with this, of course, on psychology students. But what they did was they had psychology students who were taking, and they were being paid as subjects, and they were taking like math tests. So they had to do math tests and math problems. But while they were doing it, they started sending them emails. And they did two different kinds of emails. The emails that they did, one was very much like supportive emails, like saying, oh, I'm sure you'll do great on this, and things like that. And other emails that were stressors, you know, things like, okay, you only have so much time to finish. I'm sure you won't finish. So stressors versus, you know, supportive things. And that's where some of the research came from. So the other thing that is out there, and we see it. Oh yeah, thank you for posting us with that. The norming can make a difference. Now, how many of you have ever been in an online community and a troll showed up? I know that's a weird question to ask. And Cynthia said yes. Okay, trolls. It's really easy to tell a troll. And exactly, Cynthia. Does everyone know what a troll is or troll behavior? And I'm putting this out, and so I'm putting out this next slide. A troll in the internet vernacular, or griefer. Griefer is another good word for it. A troll is someone who specifically says something to try to upset as many people as possible. Okay, they're also, they may also call, also doing this is also use the term flaming. So flaming somebody, and the person doing it might be called a flamer. Okay, an internet troll. So think of this. An internet troll is someone who is specifically trying to upset other people. Okay? Now, it happens on Facebook, it happens in social media. And what I have highlighted there is they take pleasure in ruining a complete stranger's day and find amusement in their victim's anguish. Okay? I hope you don't have any trolls in your classrooms and in your discussion boards, but you might. So this is another behavior. Having, yes. and thank you for putting, thank you for also putting that nuance into the chat. So what these different terms that I'm putting out here are different ways that we have to discuss this. And now this part I am pulling from the literature on microaggressions, and specifically face-to-face microaggressions. 3 types of microaggressions. Microassaults. They're blatant, verbal, nonverbal, and they intend to convey discriminatory and bias sentiment. A micro assault, you know that it is meant to be biased. It's meant to be discriminatory. The other type, micro insults, they can be unintentional, but their rudeness, insensitivity, or demean a person racially, heritage, gender, identity, religion, ability, or sexual orientation. Micro invalidation, and I just put one that's, and the examples I used, I didn't want to use the worst ones. I just wanted to use ones that perhaps most people might have heard of, and then this is in no way to devalue microaggression. Microaggression is often talked about in the literature as death by 1,000 cuts. And while it's not in my presentation here, another term is racial battle fatigue, and that is having to deal with microaggressions constantly and every single day. Okay, so I wanted to give the vocabulary here when we're talking about microaggressions, and these kinds of microaggressions, they are taken from the literature of face-to-face. Now, chilly climate at this point in time was originally used for women who are treated differently in the workplace, in the classroom. I will tell you, in the literature now, you don't even have to cite it. It's considered known enough that you do not have to cite the people who first originally wrote about this. And I will say chilly climate does extend beyond women. Chilly climates can be created for all types of people's identities. Chilly climates, here's some of the things that happen in chilly climates, even when professors are trying to help the students. They often give them executive help, which means telling them exactly how to do it, rather than just giving them instrumental help or scaffolding that helps them just go a little further. Another thing about chilly climates that often happens is that someone who is female, or someone who has a racial identity or a religious identity, often that person will say something and someone else will feel like they need to explain it again for everybody else. So here's one of my activities. So I haven't written up the research yet, but this is what we have been doing. So take a look at this, and I'm just giving you some scenarios, and these scenarios feel free to use if you would like to do some workshopping or discussing or even training with your people. So this one, really easy. You are, and this was part of our online certification until it got really streamlined for for the pandemic. So this one is for this week's assignment. You ask students to write an opinion paper and post it on discussion for peer reviews. Assignments due on Wednesday. Students are supposed to post their peer review by Friday, and over the weekend they respond. You open up the first peer review, and this is in discussion. It reads, "Your paper sucks. It's so boring. It's like reading straw." Okay, now you as the instructor, what do? Is this a student code of conduct violation? So any thoughts there? And feel free to get on mic or to type something in. Either way works. And I will first delete the comment. Ooh, okay. Okay, so you said first delete the comment. Now, because I'm an instructional designer and because I have admin privileges on the LMS, what we normally do is rather than, and we use D2L, rather than delete, we ask people to move the comment. So move the comment out and keep it, create another discussion forum, move the comment out to that discussion forum and keep that forum hidden. That's what we normally do. Now, depending on what kind of LMS you have, another procedure might work. And the other thing by delete, like delete the comment, you probably mean that you're going to make a copy of it. Probably before you do anything that moves it, so that you know exactly where it is nestled inside the discussions, so that if it is a student code of conduct violation, you have exactly where it is. So you can take a screenshot, you can pull up something screen capture, and you can record it there. So, oh yeah, the hope is to mitigate the damage done to other students. Absolutely. And I will tell you, this is the kind of reason why when I'm teaching online certification, I tell them, you have to go in and you have to check everything. Okay, you can't just assume that everything's going perfectly. You even if you're not doing a close reading of everything, you have to go in and you have to look for something like this. And as part of training, this is something we call an evolving scenario. So our evolving scenarios, there's usually 3 parts and they're divided up over the week. So in online certification class, the faculty who are taking it get this part, they have to. So while this talks about online discussions, everybody who's taking online certification has to answer this by Wednesday of the week. So and they all go in and everybody has great answers, and they're thoughtful and they go back and forth, and I let them all know that they have great answers, and then bam, this happens on Thursday. They see that this part of the scenario they have to do, and it says it's been 3 days since your paper sucks. You look in the email inside the D2L course. You have an email from John Smith, the student who received your paper sucks review. This one, it states, I'm John Smith's mother. He is a high school student, and this is his first exposure to a college class. I can only hope that the way you allowed another student to bully him is not indicative of how your college treats all students. I want to know what you are going to do about it. Please call me and let me know how you're disciplining that other student. So our training scenario has people seeing this on the second day. And does anybody want to type in chat or either get on mic? Can you see some problems with this? So any thought of some problems on this one?
Just to help keep the conversation lively, we can pick on me. Okay. And of course, everyone, please type in the text chat. We love your feedback. What the first problem is, mom is speaking to us probably without a FERPA signature, and I know he may be high school junior, he may be underage, but I don't know that so if I'm the educator, I cannot assume any of those things. I can assume that I'm not going to speak directly with someone who's not the student about a very sensitive issue. So I'm probably going to look for advice from my dean or program chair or whatever. that would be my backtracking, but I would be giggling at first, because I could say, you understand, as a mother, she wants to intervene, but you also understand that one of the things we learn is, of course, these wonderful diplomacy skills and etiquette, and we of course direct students to the code of conduct, right? And to very specific sections of it. In this case, anyone else want to chime in here?
Oh, it's somebody else got a mic, but I'm also seeing, I would hope the instructor had already addressed this with John Smith himself. Well, Laura, that's the thing about it. When I'm doing this, I'm allowing these to evolve. So because of that, the faculty who are taking this online certification course may or may not have. And again, this is may, and I just want to say, Laura, that's like one of the most important things that oftentimes what we try to do is we immediately focus on the person who has violated our norms, and do not look at who was the recipient of that. And I want to say, Laura, absolutely, it should have been addressed. And Vicky, yes, this absolutely. and that's the real thing about caring for our students. And mutual respect policy might allow you to delete the post and address that it violate. Yes, having that. Here's the thing that I would say. Mutual respect policies, they're great to do at the beginning. And of the semester, and Tyler, make the parent a collaborator, making sure that John feels supported. I will tell you, I had been, as the online student success coordinator, I was on the phone with lots of parents in this kind of situation. And it is, and while I could give no information, making the parent feel like they know what our policies and procedures are, and that someone made the effort to contact them and discuss it with them, really has always worked. And yeah, they do get into a little, and when it's a high school student, they do get into a little bit of comparison about, well, at the high school I can do this, and you talk them through that. So thank you for, and Eric, jump in.
Yes, Kay.
Yeah.
I have 15 years experience in higher education. I started at the community college, and we had the situation, this is before pandemic, where parents wanted, I was a faculty member, support specialist, and I had a parent wanting to know about his daughter's grades, even though it's a FERPA violation. She was, I think, a dual credit, and we had a lot of dual credit students. And then with a lot of what this going on, the pandemic, I moved to remote at my institution, and we had a lot of FERPA violations with students seeing the different students in the merged courses, even though there are different sections. So that's very important to always make sure you have a clear boundary between the parent and the faculty member and the student, because the parent isn't supposed to see any content really in the class unless they have permission that they're enrolled, or they find out the information. So that's why I was always, if I had this situation occur in my institution, I would have the faculty member contact our conduct for undergraduate or graduate, just to make sure. And we also have in all of our courses using Quality Matters that I work with is have a netiquette. So we meet that requirement. So students are expected to behave appropriately.
Yeah.
I know it might happen accordingly, but that's one of my initiatives is Quality Matters, and just make sure that we have all these requirements, that the students agree upon that for taking these courses.
And that's something really big that we need to bring out now about remote. You're right about parents or other people, in a student's family, like looking at the screen, getting on camera and things like that. I think that's going to be something that we will start, as a netiquette, we might start building another line that covers that. And we've been ahead and we've been having some good chat. And so, Cynthia, what are you seeing in chat? I will go back
just as you asked that question,
Yes.
of course, my chat disappeared, went back to the other window. I'm flipping monitors looking.
Okay, mine did too, and that's why I referred to you. my chat just disappeared too.
I think the overall thoughts here are whether we first talk to the person who has been offended, potentially offended by this, or whether we move the post to a holding area, or whether we answer or don't answer John Smith's mother, even to say, I'm so sorry, we can't discuss this, but I'll be happy to discuss this with students, And of course, if you have any concerns, there's a protocol for it. I don't know if you wanted to advise her of the protocol or not, or whether that should really be involved, but sometimes parents can be very emotional and very naturally concerned.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't want to be fostered off by any means. They want to know, how can I get an answer?
Absolutely.
And so Tyler had some wonderful, make the parent a collaborator in making sure that John feels supported. See, that's a wonderful tactic. I think what it does, Tyler, is it forces us to be very diplomatic, because we don't want to skirt the edges of FERPA, and yet we want to treat everyone well, right? This notion of well-being. Did you see the evil twin response from Vicky?
Actually, and I will tell you, Vicky, evil twin response, when we do this as a training and in a group, we get everybody coming up with all the different responses. So I love how you framed evil twin response. I know. And quite honestly, the institution that I'm at, no one is supposed to be allowed to go into your account that you've gotten from the school. So the evil twin response is absolutely correct. It's a computer usage violation for the student to have let their parent go in through, and because I also word it so that that the people I'm training know that you got this from your LMS in Desire to Learn. You got this in the internal message. So it's not an outside email. This is a parent was inside the system. And so that gives us more discussion. So I'm going to go a little bit quicker, but then this is the part 3. And I tell them, you were all great. These were useful responses. Okay. So the student who posted your paper sucks sends you an email stating, I think you're biased against me because I'm a Wiccan. And there has been no required discussion of religious affiliation in your class, but the student did post that they were Wiccan in the introduce yourself to the class.
I'm sorry to start laughing, but
no,
and I have to admit, if I was talking to someone face to face, I would not laugh.
No,
I would school my expression. But the only reason I'm laughing is this is a misdirection, right? This is a, and of course the person may truly believe this. I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm saying it also is a little bit of a misdirection, because no matter what we are and how others treat us, we must always treat others well. If everyone treated everyone well, you'd get back to that gentler and kindler internet.
And at the end of these, and you don't have to type the response at this point because of time. We'll just think of this as a thought exercise. But
no, but I think they want to know, well, how would you handle it?
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, people always ask me, did this really happen? And it's like, yes, this did happen, except I combined 2. I combined they were 2 separate, almost the same. Your paper sucks, and I put them together. And Jennifer's asking, do you address the harm done in the original forum? Yes. Okay. You do. If you're having office hours, do it during office hours. You can record a screencast that quickly covers it. And some of the things is absolutely, some of the things are, first of all, yes, you reach out to John and you make sure John's okay. You make sure John's okay. And after that, you make a decision of how it's best addressed for the rest of the class. Are you going to do it during perhaps a synchronous session you're having with them? Can you do, can you make a quick recording and address it? That works well too, because people don't have to guess what you mean. And because if you go fully text, there's always going to be some people who interpret it one way and then others who think of it another way. Being able to see you on screen talking about it, knowing your tone and really conveying the emotion is really a way to discuss it with students. Okay, mutual respect policies. So I'm giving you something else. And like I said, we won't, because for time purposes, we won't I'll put them there for you to think about and thought pieces. Okay, so this is an intro to criminal justice course. The discussion question was actually about the practices of the Maricopa County Sheriff, who is Joe Arpaio. And the question was what students thought about Joe Arpaio making people who were in prison in the county jail wear basically pink long john underwears and be intense. So a woman who's in criminal justice responded, did an initial post, and then this is a response that she received. And I can tell you that the person who responded like this identified himself as male in the introductions.
I missed the setup on this. I heard something about pink long underwear.
Okay. So just basically, here's the thing. It was a criminal justice question. It was the instructor asking the students their thoughts on how the Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio treated the people under his care, and she gave a response, and her response was pretty neutral. It didn't really go into a lot of detail. And then this is the reply that she received from another student. So I'm going to continue on. This was her response. Okay. And this is, now let me tell you, and this was not in a class, this was not in my class, but the person whose class it was in gave me a call, and they were at that point in time, they were at a different institution than I was at, but I was an online student success coordinator when they were there. And they called me and they said, this happened in my class. Nobody is talking at all in discussions anymore. What happened? And after they shared what the response that you saw, here's what I can tell them. Hyper politeness. The other thing that when microaggression happens, people shut down. It can be the victim. Yes, it feels like bullying. People shut down, they disengage. And this is also from the research that there's a hyper politeness that takes place. Now, think about it. The student said, good response, I'll take it into consideration. Very nice. Didn't mean to offend you. Again, very nice. And the discussion shut down. And when you have someone, and like Roxy, you said it feels like bullying. When you have someone bullying or doing these microaggressions, what can happen in your online discussion forums, and you might have even seen this in your face-to-face class, hyper politeness can ensue, meaning no one's going to engage. And if they do, they are apologizing like the whole time, and they are tentative, and they don't feel free to speak. Really quickly again, because I am bad at time. So this was an instructor that I worked with to bring culturally relative pedagogy into the education course that they were teaching. They had, what we were using was a very basic worksheet that asked, who are you culturally? And this was a response, and it's education. So this person was teaching educators. So this was a course that people were taking because they needed some education courses to be able to teach either at the high school or at college level. So this is one. I did the worksheet on culture, and this was posted in discussion. And I understand multiculturalism. I'm frustrated. And he goes, I am more so a product of a multicultural and task-oriented profession. I cannot speak for all professions, but the fire service is something that you become. Okay. Again, somebody came to me and said, what do you think about this? And I went, okay, well, you know, let's look it up. Let's look up and see how multicultural it is. I don't know fire service. Let's look it up. And I made an assumption. It was something like the percentage of, you know, the percentage of minorities that maybe the police have, or the percentage of women in the military. I thought the percentages would be something like that. Okay. It's 96% white male. And it's like 96.5% white male. That is the fire service. That's the fire service. In the US, in the US, women just aren't firefighters. Rarely are they firefighters. When it comes to race and ethnicity, yes. High horses and sacred cows. Nice, Vicky. The percentage, so the person was claiming multiculturalism, but when we looked up to see it, it wasn't. And so what the instructor went back and did was asked everybody in the next discussion to look at the diversity of the field that they were teaching in, and to report it back to everybody. So that was how we handled that. Now, some practices for your toolkit. If you are the instructor, these are the suggestions. Screenshot the post. Okay? Hide the post, don't delete it. Talk to someone about it. Trust me, when this happens, you need to talk to someone about it. Okay? Because you will doubt yourself. You will you will continually guess about it. Especially if you're a dominant culture. You haven't had to think it. You have had the privilege of not having to think about race or being an ethnic minority or being a religious minority. So talk to someone to see if there's a different filter that you could be looking at this with. Okay, share the email before you send it to student 1, the student who wrote your paper sucks. Consider making a phone call or a Zoom to student 1. When I was the online student success coordinator, I can tell you the majority of times that things that happen, if I made a phone call to the student was not expecting that. The student was expecting anonymity. And I talked to the student about what was going on. And I can tell you, other than one time, it did get resolved. It did get resolved. Send an email to students 2. Consider making a phone call or a Zoom call to student 2 also. A couple things, if you are an administrator, so you're the person who's supervising or a trainer or say an online student success coordinator, that you figure out a way to start incorporating this, okay? To give it exposure, to have a discussion, because people are going to be emotional about this, so that you can get them dealing with their emotionality to begin with. You can think about training activities, assign a designated person who the instructors can talk to. Perhaps there's an instructional coach already, and this could be part of it. And if you are an administrator and I'm saying, like, say you are a dean or an associate dean or a director, and you supervise people who supervise other people. Think about doing some change management to ensure that people are prepared for this. Bye, Rachel. Thank you for coming. Now, racial and gender bias, some more research recently done, 2018, and 124 MOOCs. They created fictional students, and the names were identified with racial and gender connotative names. And what happened? Instructors are 94% more likely to respond to a discussion forum by a white male than any other race gendered combination. And just to end it up, some things that you can read about and look up more. One is intersectionality, the interconnected nature of social categorization such as race, class, that create overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. And there are some of them here. I'll just put this up so you can read it. And this says a lot. If you were at our keynote with Pam Hanks on autism spectrum disorder, where she put up the slide that said, if you met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. Some other terms and things to read about and think about, colorblind racism, critical whiteness, and that's examination of white privilege and how white privilege comes over into pedagogy. Some of the critical frameworks. Settler colonialism. And we were addressing this at the conference. We in such a small way, we were trying to address this when we were doing our land acknowledgements. And because I have like 2 minutes, I'll have to go fast. And then this is my ending like question for myself and anybody else who wants to reflect on it also. And I'll just go quickly through this. Show you some things at the end. And if you're interested in, yes, we meet as a group in ELK and try to do things. So if you're interested, please go ahead and contact me. And so, yes, we are at the end. We have 2 minutes left. If anybody has anything to put into chat or get onto mic, please do so now before we close it up. And stopping my share. And yes, I'll share my slides.
You know, we had so many wonderful comments, and one that stuck out for me was Robert's comment about Zoom and the fact that we can't edit or remove an unsavory, I shouldn't say unsavory, but startling post, so
yeah, exactly.
and how we address that, as a community to make sure that everyone feels comfortable. It's not just student 1 and student 2, it's also all the bystanders who are impacted by it too.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not bystanders, right? We're all a community. Thank you, Kay. That was a wonderful session.
Thank you, Cynthia. So everybody, thank you for coming, and I will see you around. Bye-bye.